Here we go.
This is Charley Koenig, actually Carl Friedrich Koenig. It's interesting to note that on this trip in 2013, he was 89 years old and had just had a hip replacement surgery. Since 2010, this is what Charley and I have done. Traveled around Europe and the US, visiting battlefields, crash sites, and museums. We've climbed in and around World War II tanks, motor gunboats, and planes, and we've talked to a couple hundred veterans and civilians about what happened to them in the war. Charley prides himself on being able to climb onto any tank the way its crew would have. He's climbing onto a Grant tank here. He wanted his friend Ken to know, if he was watching from heaven, that Charley still didn't need to use a ladder. That's me. By the way, I don't mind using a ladder. There's not a lot of footage of me. As usual, I'm behind a camera. But this is about the people inside the tanks in World War II. It's about Charley and his friends, the ones he fought against in Africa. You see, Charley fought in Rommel's Afrika Korps. He fought for 6 weeks in a tank before Africa fell to the Allies. His first battle was in March 1943 in Tunisia against the British 8th Army, specifically against the Sherwood Rangers Yeomanry Tank Regiment. After the war, he made friends with these honorable and incredibly brave men against whom he fought. These British tankers who battled through Africa, on to Gold Beach on D-Day, and through the hedgerows of Normandy. They fought at the side of American paratroopers in Nijmegen, and on into Germany to the very bitter end of the war. This is a story about their enduring friendship. What's your full name?
John Douglas Semken. My name?
Yes.
Albert Jenkins. I used to do a lot of the driving, but I was officially as a gunner.
Can you start with your name?
Graham Stevenson. I was the lap gunner co-driver, and I was 17 when I was out there. And then I was at the Battle of Alamein, and then right across the desert had a tank shot from under me before I was 18. At the end of the campaign, we came back to England 2 days before my 19th birthday. Very, very few people that started at Alamein saw the end of the war in one piece, you know. Ken Ewing, he was one of the very few, and he was gunner in my crew. That's Ken. He came all the way through. We always said without a scratch.
We were shifted from Palestine into a dreadful camp on the edge of the desert, a place called Katapa. And when we got to Katapa, out in the desert, there was hundreds and hundreds of tanks, lorries, guns. I was told to get in a grant. I never knew what a grant was. You had to learn how to drive these damn tanks. Nobody would tell you. You had to, do it by guessing. And so when we went into our first battle, the Battle of Alam Halfar, the result was absolutely disastrous. And then there was Alamein.
Well, we started off at Alamein with the General Grant tanks, but as they got knocked out, so they were replaced by Shermans.
You see, the trouble is that when a tank went on fire, you had about 20 seconds to get out, and unless you got clear of the tank by then a Grant would blow up. The German tanks didn't blow up, nor did they go on fire anything like so readily. In fact, your tanks were much, much better. Well, they do get on fire. It happened to me after we were shot up penetrating the American lines near Mareth at the end of the war, and I saw the flames licking around the driver's legs, but it did burn, and after we had left it and I looked back, I mean after a while, it wasn't there anymore, it had been blown up.
Yes.
So I mean they do get on fire, but the Sherman would catch fire easily.
Yes. Well, it did. The Germans, each one had a way out.
Right.
But we didn't. And the result was that my driver, poor devil, was burnt to death, and the co-driver died of burns some months later, and the operator was burnt very badly. But I had my hair burnt and my hand burnt, but I was in battle next day. But it was a rough sport, there's no doubt about that. In the end, we emerged from the Battle of Alamein successfully, and from then on, I just don't know how the Germans stood it. They never let up after the Battle of Stalingrad and of Alamein. The Germans never won a victory. They were just retreating all the time. And yet they never gave up. We had people killed in the last week of the war. The Germans simply never surrendered. Their guts was beyond belief.
Even when the situation was hopeless, we would never give up. We were ordered not to surrender. And
Yes.
we had to fight till the last, and I was doing this. My lieutenant was one of the bravest I can imagine, you know. And even though we knew that the case was lost, we were still in a fighting mood because we had to be. When the tank blew up and we had bailed out, you know, at one point he says, "Oh, there's a machine gun nest, you know. We are gonna take that." You know, in the middle of the American battle line, under the fire, the crossfire of the machine guns, under the fire of the last shells the German artillery had, and the last 3 or 4 of our tanks was a small group, battle group. And then he says, although he knows there is no chance, the war will be over for us in at least 2-3 days at best, he says, "Let's take that." And he asks, "How many pistols have we got?"
I don't know what it's like to be defeated and discover that those dreadful things have been happening. I mean, some of the things down under Hitler were really quite dreadful, and they didn't know about it, but they know about it now, and I think that it's must be very terrible. Bad enough, I must say, when you've won, but when you've lost, the casualties you suffer, all the rest of it must be dreadful. And of course you and I did fight, but not to the death, thank goodness. And it's rather wonderful that you used to be sitting there in perfect peace and harmony with me, because after all, I've got no quarrel with you, and you've got no quarrel with me.
Oh, these are emblems given to me by my friends. These are the 10th Hussars, Royal Hussars. These are the Sherwoods, my regiment. I say so quite proudly. It is mine. These are my friends. It is my conviction that I belong to them. and vice versa.
How do you feel about having a German as an honorary member of the Sherwood Rangers?
I don't mind at all.
Why not? Why don't you mind?
Why not? Obviously, we're all doing what we're supposed to have done. Obviously, he fought for his country and I fought for mine. Unfortunately, he'd lost. But there's no reason why we still can't be friends.
Just no animosity whatsoever. He was a soldier, he was on the other side, but his soldier had finished, and that was it, you know.
And how do you feel about having Charley as an honorable member of your regiment?
Well, we're delighted to have him. He came over to the tank museum and met Ken Ewing, and Ken Ewing invited him to some dinner and so on. And he came and made a speech, which we responded to with a standing ovation, and he's been with us ever since. And he came to a lot of the things we did. I don't know what it might have been, the 50th anniversary of D-Day, I don't know. A French television character came up and he said, "Is that chap over there really a German?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, what's the connection with, he's got with your regiment?" And I said, "Well, we used to shoot at him." And then he shrugged his shoulders and gave up. He couldn't understand these British.
My connection and my friendship to the Sherwoods, I think I never forgot that. It has been one of the great impressions of my life.
Please keep coming.
Yeah.
Keep coming, Carl.
I
You'll
do
always
my
be
best.
welcome.
Yes.
Always be welcome.
I'm so proud of being a member of your regiment.
Well, you are indeed. You are a much loved and much respected member of our regiment.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you.
As a medic, we took care of any number of German soldiers that were wounded, some very seriously wounded, and we evacuated them through our regular channels. But we always felt, Big Tom and I and the rest of us, you guys had to be there like we did. You had to serve your country as we did.